we got to that place of like, okay, now we have passive income that exceeds our expenses. We can stop working. And when we had that conversation of, well, should we? And we both looked at each other like, no, like what would we do? We would be so bored. We wouldn't like that. We became these people who are now business people and investors, and we love this entrepreneurship game. So then we realized, oh, we're playing a new game here, right? Like we are playing this game that doesn't have a finish line.
Welcome back to another episode of The Donkey and the Bee with your hosts, Brett and Laura Shakavis. And we got the donkey right over there, which is not me. And we got the biatch over here, which is me. So Donkey and the Bee, we are coming at you talking all things marriage, entrepreneurship, and finances. And today we are talking about some games here. And we're not talking about like Super Mario Brothers, like ding thing. We're not talking about those types of games. We're talking about different types of games.
Money games.
Exactly.
Those are my favorite kind of games.
Yes, they're very fun.
Nice. So we're talking about this game, the entrepreneurship game. And it goes back to like, why do you see super rich people still working, right? You know they can retire. You know that they have, I mean, they buy islands and stuff, right? But why are they still hustling? Why are they still grinding? There's a game that they're playing, right? There's a purpose to this madness of them doing, you know, more than most people as far as work and time commitments and all these different things. Like, why are they doing it? And so I want to talk about this today, the entrepreneurial game. I don't know. I feel like I'm saying that funny. The entrepreneurship game. I don't know, whatever the heck you want to call it. But so last episode, episode 45, we talked about the financial freedom game and how that was our goal, right? And we hit that. And I want to kind of do a little pros and cons here, or contrasting between the two, because I felt like that we hit this financial freedom game, but then we kind of realized there's a whole nother level here. There's a whole nother game beyond this game, and we're playing that game now.
It's interesting to listen to uber wealthy individuals when they get interviewed by people. And a lot of the times the interviewer asks, why do you continue to work? As if it's a negative, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people think that work is bad. Work equals bad. And so I think if you listen to this, I hope that it switches your mindset on work equals good. There's so much good work that you can do that is so exciting and exhilarating to you that even if it's hard, you still want to do more of it. And I think that's what comes across when you hear the ultra wealthy being interviewed. It's like, I love what I do. It's very difficult work, but I love it. I think that can come across with a lot of the big names that we hear on the news, as far as, you know, the ultra millionaire, billionaire individuals. They love it. They always think, what else am I going to do? And so that's what I hope can come across today, that work is good and work is fun. And yes, it's hard sometimes and frustrating, and sometimes you just want to give up, right? But I think that it's fun because of the process of the growth intertwined in that.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. It's the growth, it's the challenge, it's the accomplishment. It's why some people become super elite athletes, because they become obsessed with this goal. And when you say, hey, work can be fun, it's not the way that like most people think work is fun. Like, oh, this is great, all 40 hours a week. Like, no, like it's when you go to the gym, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to get up, I don't want to do it. But then you leave the gym, you're like, ah, man, I feel fantastic. That was awesome. Like I'm hurting and I'm like, and I know I'm growing. It's more like that kind of fun, right? Like that really sucked, but I'm so glad I did it. Like in hindsight. And you get to a place, and I don't think you start there. I think you actually have to grow yourself there. And that's why I kind of think this is a building on the previous episode we talked about with the financial freedom game, because honestly, that was our goal. It was like, there is an actual dollar amount, right? If we hit $10,000 a month in passive income, or $15,000 a month, or whatever your number is, like, hey, we hit the finish line, and now we can retire. We can retire early. We have this safety net, or we do whatever we want, right? But you don't see the ultra wealthy, you don't see them like just sitting on the beach in Cancun, right? Like they may vacation, but those are some of the hardest working people in the world, the richest people, right? Because they are obsessed. They are addicted to what they do because they love it. Not in the way that we were just talking about, right? Like in the way that this is super challenging, but it's super rewarding to be able to do something and, either make a difference or build something really, really cool. You have to become that person. And I think I want to share a little bit today about how we grew and are continuing to grow and have really shifted our goal from, okay, let's hit this financial number in passive income so that we can stop working, to, you know what, we're really now playing a new game that we chose. I didn't really go into it like long term thinking this is what we're going to do, but we got to that place of like, okay, now we have passive income that exceeds our expenses. We can stop working. And when we had that conversation of, well, should we? And we both looked at each other like, no, like what would we do? We would be so bored. We wouldn't like that. And we didn't go the other direction of, okay, well, let's fill our time with charity events and serving, our community and things like that. It was like we became these people who are now business people and investors, and we love this entrepreneurship game. So then we realized, oh, we're playing a new game here, right? Like we are playing this game that doesn't have a finish line. It's just how long can you play the game? How far can you go? How much cool crap can we build, right? And that's so exciting to me. I literally I never want to actually stop working, right? We work all the way from when we wake up to when we go to sleep because I love it. It's exciting and it's fun and it's super hard, and it's not fun and like, oh, I'm smiling kind of fun. It's fun and like, man, this sucks, but it's going to be so amazing when I get this project done, right? Like I'm just obsessed with it. And that was not who I was 10 years ago. My obsession was, I got to get this passive income. I got to get these rental properties so that I can X, so that I can retire, so that I can travel, so I can spend more time with my family. And then I transitioned. I became a different person that doesn't want that anymore. And I think that's a really interesting thing to consider. And I don't think that you know that's going to happen to you, or else you probably wouldn't have gotten down that path.
Yeah. When you say never-ending game, I think a lot of listeners are probably like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. Like you're stuck in this game of Monopoly and you just can't get out. But I don't think that's what we're trying to portray here. I think the never-ending game of entrepreneurship, what I think it really means is, yes, you're building yourself, you're growing yourself, but I think it also means options. I think that you have the freedom of choice and options when you do get to a point in the entrepreneurship game where you're able to kind of do what you want financially, or go on vacation for a couple of weeks in Europe, or you have more options, more freedom of choice. And so I think when people think of that, they're like, oh, well, that sounds great. I want freedom of choice, right? And so we're still in the game. We're still playing that never-ending game, but we get to offshoot different choices while we're playing that game.
Yeah. You come at it from a different perspective than when you're just getting started in life and you're the employee thinking like, oh, I have to go to work again, right?
Exactly.
I never have that mentality. I bet you the uber wealthy never have that mentality because they are working with a purpose. There is something they're trying to hit. And, whether it's an arbitrary number, like, hey, my goal is my first 100 million or $1 billion or something to that effect, right? You don't get to that number and then say, cool, I did it. Like the game's over, I won. No, you just take your number and you make another arbitrary number and you double it or you 10x it, right? Like the whole point is to keep growing your skills in different facets to be able to do bigger deals and cooler deals and build like, man, what kind of cool shit can we do, right? Like we have a lot of time left on this earth. Like when you realize that you can take the same principles and skills that you've learned, and business is all kind of a pattern of different things, and you can bring on partners or hire people on these areas that you have no idea about, but the fundamentals are all the same. You're like, I want to learn that industry. Like, let's go do that. Let's go crush that. That sounds awesome. Like, or here's an opportunity in the marketplace. Let's go do that. Or like it's just a really fun game.
I think this is why a lot of depression can hit in for a lot of people when they get to that retirement and they don't have like a sense of purpose or identity anymore. It's like you hear all of the Olympic athletes, right, that are still really young when they get gold, right? But they've worked so hard for the last like decade, from like age 8 until like 18. They worked so hard to get to where they're going, and then they get there and they win that gold and they go home and they lose their sense of purpose because they're like, now what? And so I think that's kind of the same thing with individuals who are working 30, 40 years, getting to that retirement, thinking that this is going to be the one thing that makes me happy. They get there and then they're depressed.
Yeah.
And I think it's because you're not continuing to grow yourself. And so I think that's what's an awesome part of the entrepreneurship game, is a continued growth, right? We're hitting that benchmark and then we're like, hey, let's go to the next one. There's another benchmark to learn. Let's learn that. And so it's continuing to widen those skills and widen those abilities within yourself. And I think when you see that, it grows your self-confidence to want to continue to do more. Because the thought of sitting on a beach sounds great, and I'll do that for a couple of days. But after that, I would be so bored. And I think when I'm bored, then I would get depressed.
Yeah. I think you said it well, like the gold medal, like the prize, that's not really the goal here, right? The goal is the personal growth. It's the development. And it's really how much can you struggle through these hard things that you do, that equals how much you've grown. And then once you've grown that space, then you can do the next deal that's that much harder, right? And it sucks that much more. But then you get that thing done and it's like, man, like you become wider and wider and stronger, and you can do just all these incredible things. But to your point, like you do become super self-confident and you become this mature person. And again, we're talking about entrepreneurship, so maybe business, that you can be immature in other areas of life that you should continue to grow at. But I think that's ultimately the goal. How you find really fulfillment or happiness is in growing yourself. It's realizing that it is not the dollar that necessarily matters, and it's not the prize or, you know, how much can I sell my company for. It's what person did you become along the way? What kind of impact can you have? And I think that's really the result of the funness of this game.
So thinking back on our story, if you were to tell me that we were going to be owners of an assisted living and that we were going to expand that business and own multiple assisted livings and then teach people how to open assisted livings, I seriously would have laughed at you if you would have told me that like 8 to 10 years ago. And so that kind of proves the point of like, I wasn't ready with my set of skills and abilities because I had to go through all of the other businesses we started and all the other trials and tribulations we went through in order to have the mindset and capability to open an assisted living and then to expand from there. So in our story, you have to start somewhere, right? It's not like everyone's always like, oh, how did you start this? That's like so amazing when they come into our assisted living. And I'm like, it didn't start just overnight. Like it started a long time ago. We first started buying and flipping homes and wholesaling, and we purchased mobile homes and, you know, learned so many different skills along the way. And that it was a whole compilation of those together, what brought us to where we are now to start that assisted living and to expand that. And so you can't just start. I mean, you can start at a big deal. I'm sure you could. It would be really, really difficult and you would learn a lot. And hopefully you would still win on the outside of that. But I think it starts small, right? It starts small in the game and then it slowly increments up to bigger deals and then bigger payouts and then more growth.
Yeah. So I think it's funny because we've talked about this before, right? Like we never would have thought we'd be in memory care and dementia. We knew nothing about this 10 years ago. But now it makes me think like, well, what will it be in 10 years or in 20 years or in 30 years? Like, man, I would love to start building some custom hotels, like just some really awesome stuff. And here's the thing about this game is that if I chose to do it, I can continue to develop my skills and I can get to that place. We could start building these massive, gorgeous hotels, right? Like I would love to do that. And so I think it shows you the possibility of what you can do. And when you start growing yourself, then it's not really the next step. It's almost like you're 5Xing, you're 10Xing. Every time you do a bigger deal, it's not just 10% bigger. It might be, 2 or 3X the deal you just did as you are maturing and bringing in, partners or places that you have holes in your knowledge or experience, you could really, and this is what I love about this game, you could literally do anything you wanted in the entire world. Like we could go start building islands out in the Caribbean and building hotels on it. And like, that would be so cool. I know, I'm geeking out. Like I think this is really fun.
It's like the Palm Island in Dubai or something, right? Yeah,
Let's do that.
They did that, right? Yeah. Let's do it.
Or we were talking about opening a bank.
Yes.
We should open our own bank.
We should open our own bank. We've talked about that lots of times.
If you want to open a bank with us, leave us a comment.
Yeah, please
We'll
do.
reach out to you.
Yes, we would love to do that. But have experience, please, because we don't have experience in that.
Right.
So the entrepreneurship game is that the game never ends.
Yes.
Okay.
Just do bigger things, have fun, dream super big, and grow along the way. That's the whole thing. It never stops until you get old and you die.
Well, thanks for joining us on another episode of The Donkey and the Bee. As you all know, we do not run ads on this show, but we do have one ask. The one ask is that you would share this show. Share it with whomever you think would need to hear this or that it would add value to their life. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next one.